Everybody on this big election day.
Yeah, obviously Tuesday, November 5th, it's election day in the U.S. And everything has been incredibly busy.
Incredibly busy. We're going to continue with this story. CTV News Washington Bureau Chief Joy Malbon has been reporting on American politics. We know this for, 2 decades now. So when Anne-Marie arrived, she knew there was nobody better to talk to about how this election compares to those that she's covered in the past. She caught up with Joy Malbon last night as she was racing to meet a deadline. Take a look.
Joy, I know I'm getting you at a very busy time, so thanks for popping out of the Bureau to say hi to us today. Listen, you have been in Washington for 19 years. What is the city feeling like right now, and how does this election compare to others that you've covered?
Okay, I'll talk about me first. It's like a stress ball in my stomach. I've never seen it like this. There have been campaigns that have been tight before. People compare this to Bush versus Gore back in the 2000s, how tight it was. Supreme Court had to step in to decide the election, but it's never been this tight. These races just have not budged. It boils down to just a handful of states that could decide this election. But there's so much anxiety, so much stress, because we know what Donald Trump has said in the past. Everybody remembers January 6th, and I have never seen this city feel so anxious. I've talked to voters before. They are saying the same thing. They're stressed out. They've, taken themselves off of TikTok, off of, news feeds. They just want this nightmare to be over. That's what many people are saying.
And what does that look like? How does that manifest itself in cities like D.C., for example?
Well, in cities like D.C., this gorgeous city with beautiful monuments, stores are boarding up. They are not taking any chances. Around the White House, they've got 8-foot-tall fences, metal fences, and around the Capitol. And, the Vice President Kamala Harris's home at the Naval Observatory, they've got fencing around there too. Now, this comes after January 6th, when Trump supporters attacked the Capitol. They don't take chances anymore. You may remember the National Guard was not called in because the president had to do that, and Donald Trump did not do that. That has changed. The Capitol Police can call the National Guard in. But I really think people are taking these precautions because they don't know what is going to happen. Anything could happen. We've already heard Donald Trump, stoking fears of this campaign being rigged. We've seen ballot boxes set on fire. The National Guard have been put on notice in places like Arizona, where it's been a tight race before, Oregon, Washington State. It's a very stressful time.
Have you seen it, Joy, where, we've seen, people rooting for a candidate, but this level of mistrust, not just in candidate to another, but in the government, in the process of voting?
This is the most concerning thing. I mean, Americans love their democracy. They're patriots, they're proud people, they're generous people, living down here for as long as I have. They're the most generous people. They'd give the shirt off their back to you. But this mistrust that has been sown in government institutions, in how the vote is counted. When there was a delay in counting in Pennsylvania, people cried foul. I saw people outside Maricopa County in Arizona where it was this tight, and Donald Trump thought that he was going to win that race back in 2020. People pulled guns. It is really a frightening time, and I think everybody is just on tenterhooks right now.
Listen, you're going to be with the Harris campaign. You're going to be there perhaps at Howard University, if that's where she is going to be landing on that night. I'm going to ask you the question everybody asked me, which is, what do you think is going to happen?
I would not place a bet on this. It's really a coin toss. It really is. From the Harris campaign point of view, this would be historic. Obviously, she's not really made that a big deal that she would be the first woman of color, the first woman to be president. She hasn't made it a big deal. She is focused on the issues. But I noticed a difference in the closing arguments. She is going positive, optimistic. Let's turn the page. Aren't we exhausted with all this division in this country? You've got almost half the country, that is very mistrustful and angry, and half the country with her. Women, gender gap, they are driving the polls up over reproductive rights. But it really is a coin toss. These polls have not budged in weeks and weeks. It really does boil down to just a few states, 50,000 votes, maybe 100,000. It's stressful. We all want it to be over.
Okay, speaking of over, I'm going to let you go because I know you have a deadline, but thank you for meeting with us. Great to have your perspective, Joy, and good luck on election night.
Thank you so much.
If you liked that video, make sure to subscribe to the Your Morning YouTube feed, where you can find all kinds of new content posted every weekday morning.